Okay. Okay. I honor those of you who are watching from a benevolent space here on YouTube at Blooming Light at Blooming's Tribe. If you happen to be logging in live, you are logging in on, I want to say this is Thursday's October the, is it the 16th, 2025? It's approximately 8:31. Okay. 8:31 a.m. Central Standard Time. This is in the U.S. and Southeast Texas, Beaumont, Texas specifically. If you're logging in later, and as I said, you're a decent, non-corrupt being, then I honor you for watching. Okay, I believe the title says something like observe and move in silence. Observe and move in silence. For those of you who are like some of my regulars, then if you're up to date on the videos that I create, okay, some of the teachings, some of the messages, and even some of my own shared experiences, then you've heard me say stuff like, you know, over time as a targeted individual, not at first you are in disarray. In the beginning, you're in disarray because, again, it's a lot happening. A lot has happened to you that you don't know that has happened to you. And you're kind of just, they have manufactured that for you. So in the beginning, you're just wading through and you're trying to make sense of things. And you might not be catching it because you're looking at things at first like this is just life. Okay, it's just life. You're just trying to keep your head above water and you're not associating anything to anything in the beginning. Even when the intuition or the gut, which are very similar, okay, even when those things were kind of nudging a little bit because of, not knowing at first, you're kind of like, you're all over, you don't know what the hell, what I'm saying, is happening. Okay. But you do get to a stage and a phase of this thing where you're crystal clear, where you are grounded and you can see everybody for what they are, where you're not in the fog or the illusion in which they were trying to spin around you, the illusions in which they have managed to convince most, but the illusions you are no longer in. But here's the thing. The more you can observe in silence, the more of your ops you tag. The more you can observe, the more you can mix up your routine, the more you can, you see what I'm saying? Because see, all these things are factors that shake up the foundation that they have. It shakes up the absolute sure-footedness that they believe they have. It shakes up the predictability, okay? But also, it gives you an opportunity. When you observe and move in silence and you're moving out of sync of what maybe you would routinely do within the last, because they say like 21 days, and I'm only addressing those of you who come in the benevolence, as I stated in the beginning. That's who I'm talking to. Anywho, they say it takes 21 plus days to either break a system, a belief, a habit, or make one. The patterns of humanity in that sense. And since you are a targeted individual, or you know someone who is, and you're concerned, or you're kind of trying to figure it out and watching and blase blase, well, they have been surveillanced up close and personal, illegally, no doubt. But I digress. Up close and personal for a while, which means what? They've they've been patterning the target. I didn't say they have pattern recognition. We're not talking about that. Okay, I know it sounds like one and the same, but we're actually not talking about that. We're not talking about the pattern recognition, psychological, mental, you know, um, abilities that neurodivergence or autistics. That's not what we're talking about. Recognizing the pattern of a routine. Okay, uh, Target typically gets up at blase blase. Target turns left. Target turns right. Target goes to Starbucks. Target likes to walk. Those types of things. That's like a schedule. That's not pattern recognition in the other sense. Okay, I'm digressing again. So, with that being said, they themselves then, in some way, uh, fashion, predictable, fashion their own system, their own routine, if you will, okay, of how they move, how they operate, kind of based on that, right? What they're predicting you to do and not to do. Oh, Target is not here at this time. Target is asleep at this time. Target is, whatever the case may be. So it's then atypical for them to maybe be a little bit more open. And I'm going to give you an example. Early this morning. Early this morning. I changed up my routine. My apologies. So one would say there was a disconnect there. Interesting. I wonder why the truck is just sitting there. Is there a delivery? Is there a pickup at Delta Manor for maybe that's a towing company. Who knows? But back to what I was saying. It's going to be common to think that, okay, that is a street that's leading to, a mall. People work there. Okay, sure. But it's also the very street in which those that have been stalking my son and me frequent to watch activity. Okay. So early this morning, my son's bedroom window, I saw a former employee, of this Delta Manor that did not like me. I knew that. But also that has connections to my ex, to Beaumont Housing, to my son's previous landlords, and possibly to some of the residents that are still here that are a part of it, including the cop, that did not like me. I knew that. I caught that from the very beginning. And after they were gone, which I think people still don't want to accept and believe the truth of why that's the case. All of a sudden, this is where the harassment and the stalking that me and my son was experiencing went from being maybe not as obvious or not as many active participants to all of a sudden celebrity status kind of vibe where there's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of folks, vehicles daily. It went from that. It also went from the incidences that was happening at my son's unit being sparse, few and rare and in between, to amplified, in your face, more noise, more shit diapers, more animal feces, more, yeah, to more odd things, doors on, locks played with, to more, it amped, it amped, it amped, it amped, it amped. Then people became rude, management became rude. All of a sudden, I shouldn't say all of a sudden, because chances are it was there from the beginning, but it got amplified when people, remember I'm saying observe, when I was attempting to get, you know, y'all remember COVID, there was like distance, what was that called? Distancing, I forget what they called it. It's like, in other words, give people the distance or some shit like that for COVID. But in this sense, it's like just people privacy, personal space. Back the fuck up. Back your ass up. You too goddamn nosy. So attempting to get privacy for 5 seconds because whores follow me around like the hunchback of Notre Dame. Everywhere I moved. And having had reported this, because some going to say, well, didn't you, call the cops about that? Well, what good is it if the cops are involved? And let's say, and we did, to no avail. So at the end of the day, seeking a moment like, I can go to the bathroom, bitch. You don't need to know what I'm doing in the bathroom. Your whole ass don't need to fucking know nothing about your whole ass. Don't need to be following me like your weirdo high school little bitch. I go into the bathroom for all of 3 seconds and I lock the door. I told you guys this story. And anybody with 2 pieces of a brain and an ounce of sense that was experiencing the same thing, weirdos follow them around. Whether or not people believe them, it wouldn't matter. It's creepy. So anybody with any sense would have possibly did the same. Like, what are you trying to do, bitch? I don't know. Shit, motherfuckers is walking around the Americas. They don't all got their scruples up there. What are you trying to do? Put some poison, bitch? Because when I move, you move. I don't care. They'll get a clue that those intimidation tactics don't fucking work. As I said, then 2 seconds, 2 minutes, not even 2 minutes, maybe one, maybe 60 seconds. I'll say maybe 60 seconds, or let's just say for shits and giggles, 120. And I get a knock on the door like it's you know how police knock on your door and shit? that, right? And I'm like, okay. And I think I had my recording on that day because, again, I was still at that phase. I was tired of trying to rely upon the so-called established authority to do their jobs, what they're paid for. Okay, hey, I got to understand what's going on. I am a mother. I am what he has. And at the end of the day, that's what the fuck that matters. And anyone that's in my position would do the fucking same. And people that say differently are lying trash bags. So here comes the manager beating at the door and getting really loud while the girl, the neighbor above my son that was in there following me and was blase blase, they call it street theater. And I was like, okay, it was extra. She put it's on recording because I had the phone already on recording because I couldn't believe what I was experiencing. I was like, I'm not insane, and I'm not finna let them gaslight me in this psychological bullshit. I know what the fuck is happening. So I started recording shit just for me, so that I could look back and go, because you know how you can go back and review and then you can look at something from a perspective of not being in the moment, right? So I started doing a lot of that just to see, okay, you tripping, bitch, you tripping, because I'm human. I can make mistakes, bitch. I could be wrong. I know that. I know I could be wrong. And I wish I was wrong. Oh, how I wish I was wrong about this. And I'm not. And it was extra. It was all like, okay, you don't need blah blah blah. And I later, that happened, and then maybe a minute after that, they left, and well, they were leaving, and I went back to them. I was like, excuse me. I said, is there a problem? See, once upon a time, I wouldn't have did that. But now I'm like, no, I'm nobody. I'm not your child. I'm not your child. I'm sorry they misinformed you. I'm sorry they gave you the information about who I once was. But I have absolutely no problem with defending myself. And I can do it professionally. I have no problem asking questions and bringing something out. Hey, that was a little, is there something I need to know? I sure did. She says, no. She said, did I come off as hostile or something like that? I was like, yeah. I was like, yeah. She's like, oh, I didn't mean to. Okay. Well, I was just wondering, is there, because, I didn't know there was a rule. I did say that. Because again, it wasn't like I was in there. I might say something differently. I'm still talking about observing and moving in silence. I might say something differently let's say I had went into that bathroom and like made, set up camp, right? Because it's public. Well, I shouldn't say public, but to the to the property for those who are, So let's say I had went in there and I'd set up camp. Okay, there's 2 stalls in there. I lock the door and I set up camp for 10 minutes, 15 minutes. Okay, even though there's still an appropriate way to approach that, I would kind of understand it because, okay, it is 2 stalls, it's 10 minutes. But for 2 minutes, so that I can have a breather from the people who feel entitled to be in my energy, that feels entitled to harass me covertly, passive aggressively, illegally. That's a red flag on the play. See, I said I was going to tie it in. It's still observing. The more we start to observe and move in silence, the more they're going to reveal themselves to us anyway, every single day. In some cases, they want to be revealed. Like some of the paid actors want to be seen. Some of it's supposed to be an intimidation tactic, but they should be catching on that that's not working with me. All that I'm going to do is collect the data and use it to my advantage. That's all I'm going to do. Whether it's a thug, a gang, a cult, an authority figure. That's all I'm going to do. I said long ago, some time ago, even to the very manager here, in an email. It's on email. Possibly will be used later in court at some point. I said, I wonder how many people are involved in Delta Manor in this bullshit. Now, I didn't say bullshit because it was an email and it's professional. But see, this is because I had, as I said, like many targets, you initially, you do what you can as an adult. You act like a mature, grown, able-bodied, able to communicate adult. And you attempt initially to communicate until you figure out that it's corruption, until you figure out that their goal is to confuse. But I've always been that way, where I would attempt to, explain what's going on, say blase, blase, this is what's happening, and then staying to point. Now, I'm going to get off track a little bit, but this is something I need to say. Because here's bottom line with targeted individuals, and anybody for that matter, pertaining to all of this conduct and the things that's going on that's illegal. Okay, the violation to them and their children's human and civil rights, people getting spiffs, vehicles, and money and deals and promotions and all sorts of stuff in the name of trying to trap the collectives and do all the different shit. Staying to topic. In their desperate attempts, what they often attempt to do, what they often attempt to do is they dig something on that target, or they, attempt to use something that's not relevant to what the fuck they're doing. That is not relevant whatsoever to their conduct, to their choice to harass and invade. The target, like myself, you get to a place where you don't allow it. How's the criminal? Listen, and all you have to do is ask yourself a question. How are the criminals, the ones that are participating in the corrupt enterprise, how do they have any jurisdiction at all to question you? I'm going to say it again. How do they have any jurisdiction at all? Old schoolers, my grandmother would have said, it's the pot calling the kettle. So you're a thief. You're a stalker. You're committing federal offenses. You're getting come up off of the innocent, off of torturing disabled people and their caretakers, and you think you have jurisdiction? You actually think? You believe you have jurisdiction to so-called dig or call out something when you are a full-fledged, full-on criminal fucking enterprise? That's a joke. It's a fucking joke. So don't allow it. One of the things that narcissists do, and what they're notorious for, is deflecting. Have you ever had a conversation with one? Where we're trying to like solve a problem, an issue, a situation, get to the bottom of something that was happening, that they were involved with. Have you ever tried to have a conversation, and what was that conversation like? Do you recall? And what is something they're good at? Blame shifting and deflecting. So in order to evade the topic of what's at hand, the issue and the topic of what's at hand, they'll then blame shift and deflect into trying to get you into some kind of position of explaining yourself about something that has absolutely nothing to do with what the fuck is going on. And that's what all of these little paid actors are. What these enterprises and their employees do, as I've taught and will continue to talk about, is they take advantage of vulnerable populations. This is what makes them all disgusting. Some of these people themselves, that's why I'm like, they're disgusting. There was a time in my life that I believe that when people had relatable situations in their lives, like, because you know how sometimes you think, okay, well, for humans to sometimes get shit, it's got to be relatable. Unfortunately, that's the way most humans are designed, relatable. And if there's something relatable, then they might be able then to see something from a different perspective, or to have a little bit of more empathy or compassion because there's some type of relatability. That ain't the case. There are plenty of individuals that's a part of this whole shit show that have lots of similarities and relatability to me and my son. Yeah, they do. I'm talking from law enforcement. There was an officer, one of the times that I called the cops. Now, hey, I can't say if it's true or not, since we discovering a lot of these motherfuckers is paid actors. But the point that I'm making is he shared and he mentioned that him and his wife had an autistic son. I was told, like I said, I don't know what's true and not true when you discover how far deep and long and wide this thing has actually gone in your life. But I was told that my son's upstairs neighbor has an autistic son. Why am I saying this? Observing, it's still going together. Once upon a time, I used to believe that surely people who have relatability ain't gonna be trash. Surely people who have disabled children themselves are not wanting to participate in anything that could possibly compromise the health and the well-being and the life of somebody disabled. Surely, because personal experience. No? Knowing what something is like, and like I wouldn't want this, I couldn't imagine blase blase and so forth and da 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 da. Nope. 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 None of these trash bags gave two flying fucks about that. My son's supposed to be protected, and they failed to do that in this state. And they gonna pay for it. Now, hoe or bitch supposed to be going to this goddamn unit. Or opening this door. Hear me? There's supposed to be no tolerance to any violation to his human and civil rights being a resident or his caretaker here. And that's the goddamn bottom line. Whether, and collective, that's true of you as well. Whether people like you or not, see, that's what's going to come out in the wash. That some of these people have been your weirdo, creepy social media stalkers from the fucking beginning. And that's where some of the problem that they have with you, as well as the connections to your trashy family, landlords, nigga bitches you fucked with, and they homie and a hoe bitch that was married to this, like that kind of shit that people pretend ain't fucking happening. Paid actors. Paid to keep you in a negative space. Paid to annoy you. They all get clown suits. Whoop your kids in front of the disabled young man because his trauma